I went to BMT during the COVID-19 global pandemic. Hi guys, welcome to my channel and welcome back if you've been here before. If you've already seen my video on reasons I joined the military, this might be a video of interest to you. If you're already in the military, feel free to comment down below on your BMT experiences and feel free to tune in to see what has changed due to the global pandemic. Look, I've never experienced BMT outside of the global pandemic. I don't really know what it's like before the pandemic, but that's okay. If you haven't been to BMT, just know everyone's BMT experience is completely different. So things that I experience, you may not experience. Things that you experience, I may not have experienced. And anything anyone on these YouTube channels experiences will probably not be equivalent to your experience. So just keep that in the back of your mind if you are going to be going through BMT. Try not to worry. It's not as bad as you think. So, how did BMT change due to the pandemic? I got a nifty little email from the director of my DEP program, DTNF. That's the program that you're in where you go 1 weekend a month to the drill weekends and learn about how to be in the military before you learn how to be in the military. So this nifty little email told me that BMT would be shortened from 8.5 weeks to 7.5 weeks. And I thought, well, I don't mind that. That's all right with me because I didn't want to be there for 8.5 weeks. Like, I wanted to go, it just over 2 months is a long time, you know what I mean? So the fact that it was just under 2 months was kind of nice to go in knowing that. Of course, I was super nervous on my way there. I remember being on the plane going like, this is not real. But it almost feels like it was just yesterday too. It's weird how time works in the military. It's weird. Your MTIs will tell you, most likely, the days are long, but the weeks go by fast, and that's absolutely true. So when I first got there, you know how you see the videos of like picking up the bags, putting them down, picking them up, putting them down, and then dumping your bags all over the place and those crazy bag searches? That didn't happen to us. I'm not saying it's not gonna happen to you. It just didn't happen to us. Like, we didn't have to do that. When they did end up searching our bags, they just had us separate everything out into like our civilian stuff versus our stuff we wanted to keep in our locker. Our wall lockers are like super tall and pretty narrow. There's two sides. So there's the side that your OCPs go in. We don't have ABUs anymore, so we're phasing out ABUs. So now we wear OCPs, which is operational camouflage pattern. So we basically match the Army now. So I don't really like the OCPs because it's hard to see people's ranks. On ABUs, their ranks are big on their arm, and then in OCPs, their ranks are like super tiny on their chest. You know, if you have a captain walking up, you have to be like, oh, real fast, get your salute in. Situational awareness. Just gotta say, situational awareness. That has nothing to do with the pandemic. That's just a change going on in the Air Force right now. So yeah, no crazy bag dumps, none of that. They looked through our stuff, made sure there wasn't any contraband. We like put everything neatly onto our beds, so it really wasn't that bad. Currently, the MTIs have to maintain a 6-foot distance from everyone, so they can't just like come up and like scream in your face, ah, the way that, you know, you might see in videos. That's just not gonna happen. It's not allowed, just period dot. Unfortunately, right now, families are no longer allowed to attend our graduation. That was a huge bummer for all of us. we were all so upset over that because everyone wants to see their families after they've been through this like crazy experience, and we weren't allowed to. And so that was really hard. You know, we've seen all these videos of people who are like, oh yeah, and then my parents got to see me do the airman's run and everything, and that just didn't, it wasn't a thing. But because of the fact that we didn't get to see our families for graduation, it was kind of nice because we got to have weekly phone calls. So those phone calls were like kind of spotty and sporadic. Like, they were weekly for sure. Sometimes they would be on a Friday, sometimes they'd be on a Saturday, sometimes they'd be in the morning, sometimes they'd be in the evening. Like, you didn't really know. A lot of the girls that I attended BMT with, they would have issues like reaching out to the people they wanted to talk to while they had their phones. One of the things that I did was I set up like a group chat with all of my support system, and I would just call my partner and talk to him and just have conversations with him and tell him to update everybody. And that seemed to be the most effective way to be able to tell people things, get points across and everything, was to have that like text chat group already set up. Everybody is like talking, and he would be able to relay messages. Like, you know, when my graduation was, we didn't get family at graduation, but it did get live streamed, so my whole family got to watch me graduate at the very least, even if I couldn't like go and hug them afterwards. We still had a graduation, still got my airman's coin, and that was pretty rewarding. Getting to that end point where I finally became an airman, that was one of the proudest moments of my life, I'm not gonna lie. Because BMT, even though the demands of BMT weren't quite as high, like physically, it was just so mentally taxing to be there, and we didn't really get news. We didn't really know what was going on in the world. There was all the like George Floyd protests going on, all the corona stuff, and we just didn't get a lot of info on it. We didn't have news, you know. So it was actually kind of a nice break mentally to be separated from all the chaos that was going on out in the nation, you know, and in the world. Like, it was nice to be able to have a reason to shut that down for a bit. Not that I wanted to be like oblivious to it, but it's also just when you're constantly fed all this negative information all the time, it can really drive you down, you know. So I was really, really, really grateful for that. But it was still hard because in a moment's notice, anything could have changed with the corona thing. And so that kind of leads me into this point. My whole flight, we were quarantined for 14 days. We went and took COVID tests on the Thursday after arriving. So I arrived on a Tuesday night. We went a full day on Wednesday. That was a crazy day. And then that Thursday we took a COVID test, and they put the swabs up your nose. And the only way like I can explain how it feels is if you've ever like jumped into a pool and inhaled water up into your nose, it's almost that like weird like nose nostril burning drowning sensation. So it's not pleasant. It like makes a lot of people like cry from one eye or both eyes. Not like cry, but like it just brings tears out of our eyes because it's just like, oh, it feels like it's up in your brain. So yeah, that was not pleasant. So on that Friday we got the results back from the COVID tests, and it turns out that 2 of the girls tested positive. We weren't experiencing any symptoms, but it was still a problem. They took us all, made us like pack up all of our bags. They took the 2 girls first and they put them in a separate area entirely. And then we all had to pack up our bags, and then we had to go get on a bus, and then we went and stayed at this hotel on base. It was kind of nice for a second to like be in the hotel by ourselves and not with a whole flight. Like nobody could share a room, you know, but after a while it was like really isolating. We couldn't see each other. It was just isolating. It was kind of sad, honestly. I remember just being so worried that we were going to get recycled, being worried that we wouldn't be able to catch up with all the other flights in our squadron, and so that was like so scary. Just worrying constantly about not being where we were supposed to be. We didn't get our cell phones. From what I've heard, flights that have been quarantined since our group have been able to have their cell phones, so lucky you guys. We didn't get our phones. We had phones in our room, but they couldn't call out. The only way they could call out was if we were just dialing another room. So that was kind of interesting because I got to meet some of the girls just by dialing their room numbers and being like, hey, what's up? What's going on? This is me. Hi. You know, that was fun because I would spend like an hour at a time on the phone with my favorite people there, and we'd like talk and have a good time and, you know, try to communicate as much as possible even though we were still isolated. We weren't really allowed to go outside unless they like CQ came around and knocked on our doors and they were like, hey, you get to come out at 16:20. So we'd be like so we'd run out like building by building. So there would be like 10 to 12 of us girls at any given like gap of time. We go out, stretch our legs, get some sunshine, some fresh air. Unfortunately, it wasn't for super long. It just wasn't a long time that we would get to be out with each other. So that was a real big bummer. And we had to maintain our distance and everything. So maybe 15-20 minutes outside. We weren't allowed to run. We couldn't exercise out there. Every once in a while we'd get like a cool CQ guy who would be like, all right, you guys can run around the parking lot, and we'd just be off. Like, not all of us, but some of us who were really into that. Every day in quarantine, I would work out for an hour, and there was only one day of all the days that I was there that I didn't work out. And so I still made sure to get some like high intensity stuff in so that I wouldn't fall behind when it came to the PT test. Because even though all this stuff has changed since COVID hit, you're still expected to be at the PT standards. I still busted my butt to make sure that I could pass the PT test because I did not want to get recycled. Like, I did everything I could to not get recycled because that was my biggest fear. We were so worried that COVID was just gonna like sneak up and get somebody else, and then we'd have to be quarantined again, and then just have to go all the way back to week 1. It was just terrifying. But fortunately, when we did eventually get out of quarantine 14 days later, we just went straight into week 3. We were about to hit week 3, so we went in on a Friday and then we got out on a Friday. So that Sunday would have been our week 3. Our MTI pushed us, like, she really pushed us. She was like, we grinding out here. She was like, you guys need to be the best. We know you're behind. We know you've had this setback. You're behind all the other flights in the squadron other than Brother Flight. Brother Flight was quarantined with us too. So she was like, we're gonna make sure that you guys look good and you act right. And so she did. She was awesome. Our MTI really did care, and she would spend long days and long hours coming in and making sure that we were drilling and we were working and hustling and grinding, and you know, we made it happen. So thank goodness, because I was not about to be recycled. I did not want that. No, I would have just been like, I don't know what I would have done. Good thing I don't have to know. With the COVID testing came all sorts of precautions that Reed Clinic would take. For example, one of our girls was having some health issues, and so she went to Reed. They ended up putting her in med hold for several days because she was experiencing certain symptoms that were COVID-like. Fortunately, she didn't end up having COVID, otherwise we would have had to quarantine all over again. They were really taking all the signs and symptoms extremely seriously. Like, they were not playing, not at all. I was like, if she has the Rona, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose it. We had to learn to be resilient with our emotions as far as not freaking out. We had to really work together to keep each other, you know, grounded and not focused on the possibility for something preventing us from graduating on time. Because we, you know, when you're in BMT, you just want to go. You want to go. It's not that fun. I'm not gonna lie. I'm strong and I can handle it, but it's not super fun. It's just hard being in a dormitory full of 30 plus girls. We had anywhere between 32 and 38 girls in our flight at any given time, and I need my me time. I need my downtime. I need my quiet time. But we made it. We're here. So another thing that kind of changed was MTIs weren't really allowed to harass people a huge amount in the DFAC, the dining facility. So that was kind of nice. Other than chow runners. Hi, I was a chow runner. That sucked, but I highly recommend it. I'll explain in a different video, but I highly recommend being a chow runner. Yeah, we'll get into that later. We did have to wear masks basically 24/7, except for when we were sleeping, which doesn't make any sense to me, but hey. So we wore masks all the time, and I went in the middle of summer. It was so hot. I couldn't breathe half the time. I was just like, oh my god. Like, I thought I was conditioned, but you put this over my face and I am like swallowing my own CO2. And so it made it really hard to hear Jodies whenever our MTIs would sing our Jodies with us. The mask was covering their face. You couldn't hear them. And so they'd be like, sound off. And we'd be like, they would do their line, and I'd be like, and we would all be doing that. We'd all just be like, like, we did not know what half the words were. But there were a few Jodies that I loved, and Jodies were my favorite part of BMT, other than like the protein bars and the peanut butter, but I'll get into that later. Yeah. That peanut butter saved my life. Beast was also shortened, and a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, you guys suck, you didn't get the real BMT experience. I'm like, Beast sucks no matter what. Like, it's hot. It's hot, it's uncomfortable, you stank. Those showers, like, I'm sorry, it's too humid to actually clean at Beast. Like, you hop in the shower and you sweating and humid and muggy and nasty on your way out of the shower. Like, what is the point of the shower? I don't understand it. I'd probably do a better job rolling around in some sand. I was gross. Beast is disgusting. It's nasty. Like, get ready. If you're going during the summer, Beast is so putrid. Like, that bee stank. That bee stank ain't like anything you ever know. At a point, you become nose blind because everybody around you smells like poo-poo. It's so bad. It's so bad. So, you know, Beast was shortened. So instead of it being 5 days, it was shortened from Monday to Thursday. We went home in the afternoon. Home in the afternoon on Thursday. Home means back to the dorms, by the way. I was home for the time being. Don't judge me. It's just how it is. And I just have to say, that first shower that I got after Beast, like, our MTIs were like, get in, go, get upstairs, get your laundry, throw your laundry in there, laundry crew's gonna deal with that, go take your showers. And I was just like, oh. Like, showers never felt so good. Oh, and water from the water fountain, I would always complain before Beast. I wouldn't complain, but I'd be like, oh man, I miss cold water. Like, I really missed cold water, you know? And I'd get water from the fountain. But then you go to Beast and you're like putting water in from these coolers that don't actually keep it cool because the water comes straight out of the ground and it's hot already, and then the coolers are heating up under the sun. Oh my god. The showers and the water from the fountain. The water felt like it felt like it was ice cold, even though it wasn't. It was just like, Beast makes you appreciate things in ways that you will never understand unless you go through Beast. Okay? Okay, enough said. So we didn't, at Beast, there was no gas chamber. We didn't do the gas chamber, but we still did CADM, which is shooting. We learned how to take apart and put back together M4s, and we learned how to shoot M4s, but not M16, so that's changed. At Beast, the obstacle course was also shortened, so apparently there's like a rope or something you swing across the river. That wasn't a thing. We still did like do the weird crawling through the sand with our face all in the sand and stuff, so I mean, it's still fun, like, but it's just not as long, which is kind of nice because during the middle of the summer, it's hot. Like, you don't want to be like swinging around on stuff. You're just already dead, and then you got to be wearing those hot OCPs. Like, you don't understand hot until you get to Beast. You just don't understand hot until you're marching around in OCP. The rest of Beast, like, we still ate MREs. We had one hot meal a day, and we mostly had to just like do details all the time. We were just pulling weeds at one point. We were taking these bags that they gave us and marching a quarter of a mile and went to fill them up with sand, and then had to go carry back these big old bags of sand. I was in Sentinel. If any of you end up in Sentinel, let me know. Not that it's that big of a deal, but hey, gotta have pride in what you do, where you been, you know? But yeah, as far as those changes, there wasn't like a crazy amount of change. Like, it was still taxing, it was still difficult, not as physically difficult. We didn't run as much as like previous flights probably did. And we still had to pass a PT test even after not doing PT for 2 weeks. And the majority of our PT was strength days, so say hello to pyramid push-ups. But it wasn't horrible. And honestly, like, what I can take away from the experience is that every experience is exactly what you make it. So if you choose to take something away from it, awesome, like, kudos to you. And if you choose to treat it like a joke, well, that's just going to be your experience. I just think that you should try to get the most out of every experience. If you choose to have good experiences and take away things that will enhance you as a person, you're going to do that. And if you choose not to, well, that's on you, and that's, you know, that's your prerogative. I learned a lot about myself, especially going through a pandemic and having that like high stress of like, oh my God, am I gonna get recycled? Am I gonna have to change my AFSC? It's a high stress environment, and it is meant to put you in high stress to see how you react and build you up to react better. Tear you down, build you back up. It's really what it's all about. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, feel free to give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more about my experiences, feel free to subscribe to my channel and leave any comments if you have any questions. I'm super happy to answer all of your questions, and feel free to tell me about your BMT experiences too. Like, if you have already gone through BMT, tell me about it. I want to know. I'm so curious because everyone's experience is so different. And my experience does not mean that your experience should be the same, and vice versa. And, you know, we should all take away something that is integral to our personalities and our lives. Feel free to tune in to the next video, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.